Okay. Oh, I should silence my phone. 1 second. Okay. I am DMing a Fallout D&D campaign later, and they're just asking questions that they can figure out later. So, it has been a little over a month since I did one of these last. Oops. We've been busy though. It doesn't feel like I've been busy, but I know that I have. And I need to keep reminding myself that so I don't feel horrible like I haven't been doing anything. The weather has finally started to get better and not freezing cold. So we've been able to start going through a lot of our things that we're gonna be selling or keeping and all of that. So it's been a lot. I apologize if the glare is hitting my glasses. I need to remember to not look up. Honestly, I can just take them off. I also need to remember to not look at myself in the monitor, and I need to look at the lens, like right down the lens. So we have a storage unit about 100 yards from our house. Oh, I need to not touch that. God, I need to do this more than once a month because I am so out of practice. We have a storage unit about 100 yards from our house that we have historically had all of our reenactment, LARP, Renaissance Fair stuff in. Just recently took all of that out of there, brought it a half an hour into Keene, put it all out in the sun, went through all the clothing, decided what we're keeping, what we're selling, what we're donating, all of that. That was a lot. And now that we have the storage unit next to our house open, that's where we're putting everything that we are keeping. So right now we've got a couple of bins of our LARP clothes. I've got a box of books in there. Dishes that we're keeping are set aside in there, some nice ones. And we still have so much more to go. I also wrote a script. It's not exciting. It's for a training video for work, but it's gonna be good for my portfolio. It's something I can show companies in New Zealand, like, hey, this is the type of video that I can do and that you can expect from me. We're going all out with it. I'm hiring a local actress, paying her, and I'm gonna make it as professional as I can. I really wanna kind of get into the swing of how it would be professionally. Although it is a training video, I think it'll be fun. It'll be nice. I also started writing a script for a short film. Hit a bit of a creative roadblock. I'm sure I'll power through it. I'm excited for it. I just need to kind of finish it up and start filming it. So that's also something I've been working on. Other than that, it's just kind of been same old, just continuing to sell things, going through all of my audio equipment, trying to decide what I'm gonna keep, what I'm gonna sell. That's tough. I like to think of myself as a minimalist or somebody who doesn't have a lot of worldly possessions. But when it comes to audio gear, I am a hoarder. I have a lot of things that are important to me for no reason other than they're cool. I need to do my best to part with them, and that's proving to be much more difficult than I thought it would be. Especially when I am so torn about how much to bring. If you heard a click, my wife is here making some jewelry, so she's probably just nipping some wires. I'm hemming and hawing over what I want to bring audio-wise and what I want to set up and what I want to do once I'm over there. I would be getting a job doing media for a company, doing videos and some audio stuff, photography and design for a company, but it wouldn't be personal. It wouldn't be projects of things that I'm like passionate about. I've been looking at their version of like a Facebook Marketplace or a Craigslist type of website where people can post used items for sale. And I've been kind of perusing that to see what types of gear they have there so I can anticipate, oh, if I don't bring this, what kind of that could I get over there? Where was I going with this? Right. I've been getting more and more drawn lately to working with artists, musical artists, becoming a producer for them, crafting their sound, writing stuff with them, guiding like a project from start to finish. I need to make sure that I have enough gear to do that when I go over there, but also not bring too much that I'll never use it, that we won't have space over there. I would hate to bring a ton of stuff over there. We end up finding an apartment that's 1 bedroom, no space for anything. Undoubtedly, a lot of this is coming from the fact that I saw my cousin Lily a couple of weekends ago. She's the one I mentioned last month, who is in a band touring the world right now, Florence Road. Check them out, they are incredible. I think I'm good. You should check them out, they are incredible. Last I checked, they were at like 1.3 million monthly listeners on their Spotify, which is amazing. So they were doing their tour with Last Dinner Party. They had a show in Boston a couple weekends ago. My wife and I went, saw them open. I have no idea how good Last Dinner Party was. I'm sure they were great. They had a pretty good crowd there. We spent the whole 2 hours after the opener to hang out with Lily on her tour bus, and that was really cool, just catching up with her. We hadn't seen her in like a year, and we hadn't talked to her that often because she's very bad at texting back, but that's okay. She's a rock star and that's allowed. And so we were just sitting on the tour bus catching up. She asked if we had considered moving to Ireland or even the UK so that I could pursue connections with the music industry through her, possibly turn that into something there. I said, yeah, we considered it, but ultimately it's not our number one spot. The only way that we would move there is if there was like a guarantee for some sort of job working in the industry. There just wouldn't be. I would most likely be working independently or working for myself, getting small things here and there from bigger things in the industry. When people talk about working in the industry, it's not like you get a job at Warner Music as a producer. If you're getting a job at Warner Music, it's as like an A&R rep. It's for like their accounting department or their legal team. You wouldn't be an employee of Warner Music as a producer. You would be an independent producer that Warner Music would know to go to for specific projects. Or you might have a nice relationship with an artist who has a record deal with Warner Music. They say, hey, no, we want to work with this producer, and then you get paid that way on top of like royalties and all that sort of thing. There never would be a guarantee. That's kind of the need in order to move there, then it really wouldn't come to fruition. And I think that segues really nicely into what I want to talk about for this video in terms of moving overseas. And that's how you go about finding a place that you want to move to and a place that you can move to. And I need to preface this by saying that I'm not a licensed expert. Nothing that I'm saying here is advice for you specifically. I'm just talking about what Danny and I did and are doing in hopes that that gives you some information or inspires you to look into things yourself or to reach out to the proper licensed agent in terms of moving. I have to say this because it is against the law in New Zealand to give immigration advice if you're not licensed. I would hate to move there, somebody to see this video and to take it as advice and to get in trouble, and I don't want that. So this is just broad experiences that you can listen to and kind of go from there. We have known for a long time, my wife and I, that we have wanted to move overseas, or that it would be cool to move and live overseas. We both independently had our own like thoughts and ideas on that. Since we got together, traveled overseas twice, once to New Zealand back in, was it 23 or 24? It doesn't matter. And then last year in 2025, we visited my family in Ireland. So those were kind of the two places that we had really honed in on as far as places that we could see ourselves moving to and that we would do well moving there. And ultimately what made the decision for us to go with New Zealand over Ireland, there's 5 things that we kept in mind. First was our physical health. Next was mental health, support system, the economy and career. And then lastly, and most importantly, the ease of getting a visa and moving there. That one, like I said, is the most important, so stick around for that. So the first part, the physical health. Both countries are better about healthier food, healthier environment. We knew that we would both do well physically better than here. However, New Zealand does have a leg up on Ireland in that outdoor recreation is much bigger in New Zealand. There's more hiking, there's more camping. New Zealand, even culturally, has a bigger emphasis on going out and being a part of nature and enjoying the world around you and treating it with respect and taking time off from work to go out and to be in the world. And they encourage that recreational, outdoorsy life. So that is a plus for New Zealand. The other thing, and the biggest reason why New Zealand gets the edge on this, is that my wife suffers from chronic pain, and cold, wet, rainy environments, climates, cause her pain, physical pain. Ireland, as you probably know, is known for being colder and wetter, a little bit more dreary and gray than other places in the world, especially New Zealand. The choice between the two, New Zealand clearly takes the cake in the physical health category. The next category was mental health. If physical health had more of a consideration for Danny, then the mental health has more of a consideration for me. And that's because while both countries are safer than the United States, they both have wonderful people that we would get along with and that we would flourish in. Ireland, especially in the parts of Ireland where my family is, just outside of Dublin, places that we would want to be in Ireland, are much more fast-paced than even here in New England. Just from being there for like the week we were in Ireland, Dublin felt a lot like Boston in its pace and in its like vibe and feel, which is great if you love Boston. Dublin is like a baby Boston. Thing is, Boston is a fast-paced city. There's always things going on. There's a lot of art going there. If you want to get involved in the art community, working with artists, working with musicians, actors, anything like that, you really gotta grind it out and you gotta hit the pavement and you gotta be always doing things, always doing things. And that is hard for me. I tend to lose myself in the speed and I don't like that. I feel very manic. I feel very out of control of myself and I don't like the kind of person that I am in that environment. So while both Ireland and New Zealand would be better mentally than here in the United States for us, New Zealand gets the win again, this time because it would be better for me to be there mentally. Then comes support. Support, I gotta say, goes to Ireland. We have a handful of friends in New Zealand. One of Danny's closest friends lives in Auckland, and that's the reason why we visited a couple of years ago. I have an old family friend that lives in Auckland as well, but that's kind of it. Ireland, on the other side, I have very close family members there. People who we love deeply and dearly, people who would help us in whatever way that they could. That far and away surpasses anything that we have already in New Zealand. In that regard, Ireland gets the win. Next, we have career. This one's interesting. So, as my cousin Lily asked and pointed out, were I to get over to Ireland, my career working in the music industry or in the professional media industry in any regard would be easier. There's a bigger presence of the music industry, I should say the Western music industry, in Ireland and in the UK. There are more movie studios out there. There are more television studios out there. I have connections there. My cousin is in a rock band that tours the world. My aunt works in Irish television. My other cousin is an up-and-coming award-winning graphic designer. I have connections there, but as I said earlier, it would be more independent contracting. It would be a harder grind to get into that, and nothing would ever be guaranteed. The highs are higher, but the lows are lower. Whereas New Zealand, it's a little bit more guaranteed. In order to move to New Zealand, I would need to have a job in media for a company. And so I would be doing things in media. I would be building a portfolio constantly. I would be able to make connections professionally for my job. And so I think for this, we're gonna give it a toss-up. I think that's the best way to do it, considering, if we moved to Ireland and if everything worked out like dream scenario, but that's a big if. New Zealand, on the other hand, probably won't end up doing the things in the industry, working for international artists, being a producer, going to the Grammys. Probably not gonna happen. But I'd be working more consistently and earning a more consistent living. So it's a wash. We're just not gonna think about that. So scoreboard coming into the final round, 2 for New Zealand, 1 for Ireland, and 1 draw, which means if this is not going for Ireland, New Zealand's the answer. And this is the most important. In fact, if it were tied, if one of them was up ahead, it doesn't matter. This counts for like 3 points, the ease in which you can get there. Okay, how do you go about finding out if you can move to a country that you want to move to? First step is you need to go to their government website. From there, find the link for immigration. There's gonna be something there about visas or working here, whatever. Get there. All of the information you need is gonna be on whatever government's website you're going to. So in our case, we're gonna look at Ireland and we're gonna look at New Zealand. I will go through and get footage later on of me going through the website, but everything I'm saying could be out of date because this is based on my memory from 6 months ago when we did the final looking at things. When we first came back from visiting New Zealand and we realized it was a place that we would love to move to, we looked on the immigration website. At that time, there was a list called the Green List. This was the only way to get into New Zealand, was if you worked one of the jobs on this list and you had a job offer, then you could get the process going. I believe the Green List is broken up into 2 categories, Tier 1 and Tier 2. Tier 2 is made up of the jobs that are a short-term shortage in the country, where they think that they've got plans, they've got kids in school, whatever census, or the job is not going to be as important in the future, whatever they decide. But right now, they have a shortage of these jobs and a need for these jobs. Tier 1, the better tier, is a short-term shortage and a long-term shortage and need for these jobs. And at the time, how the website organized the jobs, it was hard to navigate and see jobs that were needed. They were broken down into categories and then subcategories. Because of what I do, falling in between the cracks of communications, computer tech, media, it was not clear if there was a need for me or not. So we thought, maybe I'll look at going back to school for one of the jobs that's in need. A year later, we went to Ireland and we said, hey, we could move here too. This is also a possibility. We got home, we got looking at their list. Now, Ireland at the time, again, could be off now, also had a list. And that list was jobs that if you do, cannot come here. Other than that, you get a job offer, you're good to go. At the time, again, because of my skill set, it was confusing as to if what I did constituted as a don't come over here job. While we were there in Ireland looking at the list, I realized that my skill set was not on that list. Surprisingly, if you work in media, if you do audio recording, if you do producing, if you do that sort of thing, you still can move to Ireland on a visa for that but you need a job offer. And as I said previously, this is very much an independent work for yourself type of career. So it's almost de facto on the list. So for about 6 months, we were very much in this limbo area of like, do we pursue one of them? Do we look at, maybe I go back to school for something else? Maybe we wait and see how Lily does. And if that turns into anything, don't know. We'll keep living life, and as things come up, they'll come up. Well, sometime in the fall of 2025, New Zealand changed its immigration. They started to allow anybody in as long as they had a job offer from an accredited employer, meaning an employer that registered with the government and said, hey, we are sponsoring visas. Now, there are still some requirements if you're just getting any job and moving to New Zealand. From my understanding, again, not an expert. You still have to make a certain amount of money. I think it's like national average at least. You need to have a certain amount of hours contracted. You also need to be healthy relatively, like no tuberculosis. But in that big update, they also reshuffled their tier 1 and tier 2 green list roles. Now, these roles are still special because now that they've opened up the market for anybody basically to move to New Zealand with a job offer, you only get a work visa for a certain amount of time, and you can't sponsor anybody unless you're in one of the green list roles. You can bring your family right away. You can get your residency right away. If you lose your job, you don't have to leave the country. You can just get another job. And in this reshuffle, they also changed how everything looked on the website. They had a search bar now where you could just type in a keyword and it would pop up anything. So I typed in media. Lo and behold, multimedia specialist popped up. Tier 1, straight to residency. And I looked on the ANZ-SCO code. I think that's what the code is. Basically, the code that talks about what that job is, the job description, what falls under that job. And as long as I get a job offer that qualifies under that job, under that code, I would qualify as a multimedia specialist. I would be able to get a visa there, bring my wife, we're off to the races. Because New Zealand already was our #1 option, we didn't look at Ireland again. And so we reached out to New Zealand Shores, which is the company that we're working with and the agency that we're working with for moving there. They confirmed that, yeah, I qualify for that. As long as I can get a job doing that, then we're good to go. So New Zealand gets that check mark too, as far as ease to move there, ease to get a visa. Easy visa. You like that? Easy visa? You don't like that? I like it. So that's the 5 things that we used to determine where we were going to try and move to. With a score of 3-1, New Zealand is the obvious choice. I'm thinking next time I'm going to talk about the process of finding the company to work for and working with an agent, what they talk about as far as like the job hunt and that sort of thing goes, which is perfect because probably be getting pretty close to the job looking aspect a month from now, which is crazy. Maybe I'll do a video sooner than a month. I don't know. We'll see. In the meantime, I gotta go prep for the D&D session that we're having in 2 hours. Oh boy. All right. See ya.